All right. Hello, 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 everybody. You are listening to WFUTDB Digital Broadcast here from the Factory Underground Studio in Norwalk, Connecticut. Broadcasting from the very top of a two-story building, Factory Underground, above ground. And my name is Tony Bacigalupo, and you are listening to the pilot edition of You Are Invited, the power of a simple thing that you can do that can make your life and the lives of the folks around you so much better. Today, we are going to be talking about, I'm going to be interviewing actually a wonderful individual by the name of Tara Barton Giles, who is just an amazing community organizer. And we're going to learn a little bit about what she's working on. And that's really what we're going to focus on, because this is just a pilot episode and we're going to get the hang of this as we go. So I'm going to bring on Tara right now. Tara, hello. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazingly great. I've got a very sophisticated interface in front of me, and it is complicated, and there's lights and buttons and switches. And so far, I think it's working.
I think so. It's so funny. I was watching you and Jeff get, kind of work out the kinks there. And it's, there seem to be some nods of understanding. So I think you're looking good over there.
Thank you, Tara. Appreciate that. I will take all the positive affirmations we could get right now. Thank you for being so game to just come hang. We haven't spoken at all. We've exchanged a couple of emails, but I found you all because of Doug's Winter Party. So we're going to have to explain to people what the heck Doug's Winter Party is, and then we'll back into it. But before we do that, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're involved in there.
So I live in northern New Hampshire in the White Mountains. I was a longtime journalist and actually did news radio for a long time. And so when you live in a rural area and you do, journalism, you're, hitting the sports stories, the feature stories, the town meetings. So you really have a good bird's eye view of what the community kind of looks like. It's kind of a way to zoom out. And now with this position as a community steward for my region, it's kind of, boots on the ground. And just for a long time, it was easy to see things like gaps and, or needs, but I couldn't do anything because I'm just writing the stories or, resharing the stories. And so now it's just a great opportunity to kind of dive in and just make some changes or elevate the great things that are already happening. So I work for the Community Builders Hub, and it's a new nonprofit that's funded by Tillotson. So if anyone wants to Google Neil and Louise Tillotson, their story is pretty great. And that's what I do. So it's just community building work. I don't know. Did I answer your question? It's hard to explain my job. It's like you're part social worker, part nonpartisan politician, part, advocate. It's event planner, friend.
I love that. I mean, that's the thing, is that I feel like there needs to be lots of this in the world. And so I'm curious, what was it that made it possible for a space and a role like this to come together in where you are in New Hampshire? Tell me a little bit about that background of, how was it decided, like, oh, we're going to build this thing?
So what happened was there's, just volunteer scarcity. And so people just didn't have the time anymore to come together and to really focus on community. And that's not to say that there aren't amazing people already doing amazing things, but it just was getting harder and harder to do. People ended up having to work 2 jobs, take care of their families, or their families are moving into their homes, and things just got a little tough. And I think after COVID, I mean, I don't know if this is, maybe, I don't know if you found this or not, but people really became isolated more than ever, to the point where I mean, even myself, sometimes I was like, "Oh, this is kinda nice. I can not go do anything, and I can just catch up and read books or whatever." But then after a while, you start to really feel the weight of it. And so, what the hub does, there's three of us. There's 3 stewards in each of the different regions in Coos County, which is northern New Hampshire, and it's I mean, we're kind of like super connectors too, where we see a need and we can connect, whoever, whatever that individual needs to somebody that can, you know, close the triangle, as they say. Um, I can explain it better with examples. I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
the
tell
best
us the story.
explainer. I don't know. For example, one of the most recent things, actually, which happened right before Doug's Winter Party. So if you look up Whitefield, New Hampshire, there our gazebo in the center of town is just this quintessential beautiful town, New England square. And it's just, I don't know. So every winter we flood the ice skating rink around it. It's, you have to build it. It kind of, because it's just grass and rocks, and so it takes effort to kind of make this rink, and it's very Charlie Brown. And for the past several years, because of weather and lack of volunteerism, it wasn't able to happen. And so one of the things with the hub is if the neighbors don't ask for it, we don't do it. So, because at the end of the day, it's not about me and what I want and what my vision is, it's what the neighbor's vision is. And there was a lot of chatter around town and on Facebook about, hey, where's the rink? Why isn't the rink coming back? I mean, this dates back to like the 1960s.
Mm.
And people just love that nostalgia. And when they see that something that has threaded the community over time is still standing, it gives people a sense of comfort that I don't even know if they're aware of. But it just does. And so I went to the select board and I just asked, hey, if I lead this project, can you just tell me yes? And they said, absolutely. And I think it's about, if you have good relationships with people where they trust that you're going to do it and that you're going to follow through, I think is really helpful. And so I had a meeting one Wednesday night, and some people showed up. They really wanted to we had 8 people show up, and people messaging and saying, hey, like, we want in on this. And so within a matter of days, we were out there in it was sub-zero, it was -20, 8 o'clock at night, which is prime to freeze this thing. And I had a speaker on my hip, and we were just listening to music, and a volunteer firefighter came down and cranked open the fire hydrant. And, the highway guys came and, built the sand as like a barrier around it. And within a week, people were skating. And it was really awesome, because that crew that got together, we didn't all know each other. And there were some new people that had just moved to town that were part of it, and young people, older people that have done it before. And it was just such a good, amazing group of people. And then that kind of led to Doug's Winter Party. So
Amazing.
I don't know if I don't know if I'm the best at explain, like I am such a, like, my ADD's all over the place with this stuff, but it's yeah, feel free to jump in and stop me, ask
Yeah,
me
no,
questions.
well, so the Community Builders Hub is a physical place, or multiple physical places? No.
It's no. Well, that's the beauty of it. So we don't have an actual building. So it's all mobile. So I've got maybe eight different towns that I, work with. And yeah, so there's not necessarily like a hub yet. Although if we do have a hub, it needs to be a roller skating rink. That's like that's that's it. But no, so yeah, the work is just really just out with the people. And so it's not in boardrooms. There's no red tape. We don't need to wait for permission to do
Yeah,
anything. We just do it with what we have.
amazing. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about, how things work there by telling me about Doug's Winter Party, what you first saw, how it came to be that y'all decided to do your own?
So so with Doug's Winter Party, so for those of you that didn't see it, the video, and I urge you to look it up after, after you hear about it, because it's just so touching and heartwarming. So this gentleman, Dave, or Doug, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. Doug, he went viral on TikTok after his neighbor caught him on a Ring camera. He's 85 years old, inviting the neighbors to his winter party. And he has these every year. And it was these handwritten invitations. And he just was so sweet. And he said, I'm Doug from across the street. I want you to invite you to my party. And so he leaves, and the woman opens up her invitation, and it says 4 p.m. until the cops come, which is just so funny coming from an
A sweet
85-year-old
old
man.
man. Yeah.
Like, how fun was he, back in the day? And so it just went viral. So people just started having these Doug's winter parties all over the place on the same day that he had his. And so I thought, what a good opportunity to do something like that in Whitefield, and to just like celebrate the energy and just, I don't know, in the moment. And it was just like a true neighbor to neighbor. There was no screens involved. There was no, it was just an in-person, hey, invite, just, hey, do you want to come over? And so I had created a little chat with my ice rink crew, and I said, hey, do you guys want to throw this together? And we pulled in some neighbors from other towns, and they jumped in, and we had a community potluck, and we pulled that off in like a week. And it was so much fun, and the police department got involved, and they helped us.
In
They
a
made it
positive way.
totally. Oh yeah. They just had so much fun, and it was just a way to yeah, to bring the police department in, and the neighbors, and um you know, these little stories come out of it. So it's not necessarily having these big, oh, if the 300 people showed up, it was this great thing. Is these intimate moments that can mean more. So we had a woman who was a little older, who came over from, well, when I say came over from the next town over, in rural New Hampshire, it's like these like 8 towns are basically like one big town. And so she came over, and I had met her at a potluck that they did over there, and invited her in person. Hey, come to our Doug's winter party. And yep, she was lonely and isolated, and she was able to sit down at our potluck and meet other neighbors from her town that she didn't know. And it was just so cool, because I looked up at one moment, and I saw the people that I knew from Dalton talking with her, and I was like, this is so cool. And like, this lady is smiling, and she's joyful, and she's part of something, and she's just just genuinely happy. And like, you can't fake that. And it took nothing to make it happen.
Okay. Tell me, so you're right in the sense that it was a potluck.
Yeah.
So it really, you didn't even have to provide as much. It did take a little something in the sense that you did have to get the word out, get people into the
Right.
room. You had some support there, I imagine, with the other folks that you work with. And
Right.
yeah. And what
So
was the
first
venue? Where did you guys end up doing it?
did it at the town hall.
At the town hall.
We just did it right at the town hall, and there's a space to do it there. And yeah, and I actually, in the spirit of Doug, I had printed out, the flyers for it, and I just went around to our local grocery store and just handed them out to people. I'm like, "Hey, you're invited." So I just did invites like that. And then, we put it on the radio and in the newspaper and on the town Facebook page, and yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, it really was so much fun, and it's just music. We did a neighbor shout out. It was just so simple.
This is part of what I am just so interested in is I have this theory that first of all, just as a general population, too many of us are spending too much time at home, alone, on our screens, all of that stuff, and it's affecting our health, it's affecting our civic health, all those things, and that one of the ways we solve it is simply by doing more stuff and inviting our neighbors and our friends to do more stuff with us. That if we're spending more time in real life alongside one another, experiencing reality together, that's less time we're spending on the internet getting upset about whatever's going on today,
Oh,
right?
totally. Well, and it was great because so then from Doug's Winter Party, I tell you, this little ice rink crew is really something. I actually wrote something about it last week, and the title was "Freeze the Water, Bring the People." And one of the sons, he's 5 years old, Leroy, he wanted to do another skate party. So we had the first skate party to be like, hey, yay, the rink is back open. And he wanted to do like a glow skate party. And so we ended up having another glow skate party. And we had just they were like $20 lights that you can get on Amazon to like they're like kind of like disco lights to like light up the ice. We had glow sticks, things like that everywhere. More people brought potluck to that, and we played music. And where was I going with this? Shoot, what was your question?
Well,
This
I
is
actually didn't
it
ask
was
one, but
so
we were just vibing, which is great, which is
oh yeah,
that the simplicity of getting together in real life and the fact that it
yes.
doesn't have to be a big deal.
The internet, you were saying about the internet where people right. There was a moment where we had a Whitefield resident say, he said, he said, people are trying too hard to force us together. And he was like, this is great. And what he was meaning was the different, political views of people. And I mean, at these parties, people are, I mean, we know who's who, and we know, especially in a small town, where certain people land. Dewey's chiming in.
Hey, hey Dewey. That's Dewey.
And yeah, he's a mess. Sorry. Anyway, too many people are trying to force us together. And he was like, this is people are just enjoying each other's company without that, because it was just as simple. There's some hot cocoa, put your skates on. And one of the things, so to your point, living life alongside people, I really like how you say that. Like just living in reality alongside people is, I love that.
Yeah, and
Anyways.
it's I've 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 always found it interesting. New Hampshire and Vermont. I've spent a little bit of time in Vermont, but the fact that you can have, it seems, vastly differing political opinions on things within a very small like social setting. And so it must make for some very interesting social dynamics. But I do think that part of the beauty and the opportunity of spending time together is that, you're handing out a flyer at a grocery store. There's nobody's wearing a pin or, a color. It's just you're my neighbor.
Right.
You shop at the same grocery store I do. Do you want to come hang with us and potluck and play some games and have some fun on a random winter Saturday?
Exactly. And the thing is when you live in a rural area, it's you have to be careful because we need each other to survive. I need to have a good relationship with my mechanic and the librarian and who, like, you name it. It's you have to have those good relationships because we need each other, because we are small up here. And you know I I mean, I don't know. It's just, I know that if something were to happen and I, drive off the road in a snowstorm, I know that I can call, only certain amount of people that have the equipment to pull me out. And, and vice versa. I mean, everybody has something to offer each other up here. So it is really a matter of survival in a sense.
Well, that's very interesting too, because I think it can get lost if you're in a more urban or suburban setting where you can kind of live a very consumer, I just leave the house to go get groceries. Heck, I don't even need to leave the house to go get groceries anymore. I leave the house to, I don't even know what, to take care of some paperwork I can't do online. And I could be disconnected from my environment. But in a smaller setting like maybe the one you're describing, we're reminded of what our human nature is, that
Mhm.
we are interdependent creatures. We cannot we can't subsist on our own as
Right.
islands. It just doesn't work. We don't last very long that way.
No, totally. And I think one of the ways, I don't know, it's we can say all day long, let's be open to one another and let's, I, I don't know, as much as we're hearing about the division, on a national level, I'm not seeing it on a local level. It happens, people have disagreements, but it doesn't fracture what we have. And I think that that's the difference. And, so when we're talking about being really open with each other, it's you really have to practice it because in the same way that I would want people to be open to the things that I'm suggesting or saying or whatever, I need to remember to be open to other people myself. So it can be really hard sometimes, It's because sometimes we just don't understand each other. We like it's like how can you think the way you do? And it's just remembering each other's humanity and really, really practicing. Um, I don't know. I mean, there's always something that you can find in common with somebody else, no matter what. Like literally, no matter what, you can always find that common ground. And I think that is wherein lies the beauty of community building. You just have to be authentic and real, Um, whatever that looks like, just show up as your actual self, right? So many people send their representative in to these meetings and boardrooms and things like that. But if you're just, Tony all day long, every day, no matter what, which I'm guessing you are, um, but if people can just really practice that, I think that would be really, really cool.
Got to remember my mute button here. So yeah, I feel like sending that representative is almost kind of what we do on the internet, right? Where we're not necessarily showing up as us, we're showing up as some whatever the digital avatar version is. Um, so okay, so what I want to get back to, I think, is you had said a few things that tell me that you're a natural organizer. In part because you said that running a Doug's Winter Party took nothing, but then you mentioned all these things that you did in terms of securing a venue and promoting and handing out flyers. So I guess what I'm wondering is, how did you get to the point where this doesn't feel like a lot to you? Have you always been an organizer? Have you been gathering people forever, or did you at some point become more leaderful in your community in more recent years?
Um, that's a really good question. Um, it's funny because I have a colleague who often asks me how to put into words what I do and how I do it, and I have trouble because my answer is I don't know. I just do it. Um,
Ooh,
I don't know.
I'll ask you a different angle. Do you remember organizing or gathering people when you were younger? So, for example, when I was younger, I I would host my friends to just play video games, or I would have a Friday night where we'd hang out in the basement and play ping pong and darts and things like that. And I didn't think of myself as a mega community organizer or anything. It
Yeah.
just felt like kind of normal suburban life. But I did see some of the seeds for later getting more active in community, and just wondering kind of, how much this is baked into your DNA versus something that maybe has arisen more recently.
Well, I think thinking back, my father was big into the community, so he was, my a track coach, cross country coach, and he would pull together and a musician, and so he would pull together events every year. Like we had this hometown Christmas and he would just pull everybody together. And I never thought about it until you just said it. But maybe I don't know, maybe and he also did it with just ease. And maybe I watched him do it and then just coaching myself. as I got older, I was coaching, little league, and then again, and then track and cross country, apple tree. And I think just maybe, yeah, maybe coaching, maybe just being used to getting a group of high school kids together for the common goal of hard work, training, uh, boosting morale and things like that. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's just like being a big a coach in a sense of, I don't know. Yeah.
Just kind of comes to some of us, I think.
Oh, I think I really think just the relationships that you have in the community too. So when you are developing those relationships, if you're doing it just because you genuinely are interested in other people, it just lands differently. And I think just over the years, just growing up in this area and then just working for the newspaper and the radio, whatever, you just get to know people, and people can tell if you're really genuinely curious or not, or helpful. And I think that's why it's so important to show up as your true authentic self, because it just lands differently and it holds more water.
Yeah, it's actually a really important point when you think about the amount of promoting that is going on, the amount of self-promotion that's going on the internet in particular, that there's a lot of hustling, there's a lot of follow me, listen to my podcast, that kind of thing. Um, and yet someone like Doug, who literally just had a handwritten invite and went to a total stranger across the street from where he lives, handed it to a person, and that person was so touched by the authenticity of that invitation. And the other people who watched that video were so touched by the authenticity of that interaction that it created this whole like global viral moment. And that gives me hope that, part of why I was so taken by the Doug's Winter Party viral moment was the fact that the appetite for connection was so clearly there. There were people who were posting these reaction videos saying like, "Oh my goodness, look at how genuine this is, how authentic, how healthy this interaction is between neighbors. We need more of this." There's like this really strong untapped, I think largely untapped sentiment of, gosh, we're all just becoming, you know, jerks at home on the internet, and
Yeah.
we need to like get out and be humans again.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is sometimes, and I don't know if you ever feel this way, but do you ever feel like if you spend too much time at home, you get depressed, but then when you go out and you're around other people, it just gives you energy?
Sure. Yeah.
I
I
feel
can't tell you how many times I see on the internet people talk about, how I cured my anxiety or how I cured my depression. And the answer is always, I got out of the house.
Yep.
I went for long walks, I got out.
And the other thing is, I mean, I don't know. So our transfer station, if you want to get to know everybody in town, you go hang out at the transfer station. And
What is the
so
transfer station?
the dump.
Oh
And so
my God. Tell me more. I need to know more about this transfer station. I'm sorry. This is great.
no, it's true. So yeah, so I'll go oftentimes because Jimmy at the transfer station, he's great. And I'll, pull up, and then I'll pull my car over to the side and like, unload my stuff. And then I'll stand there and talk to him. And as I'm talking to him, every neighbor you could possibly think of on a Saturday morning is coming through because that's trash day. And so it's a good opportunity just to help people. Oh, hey, so and so, and then help people unload their trash, and help them break down their boxes and things like that. And it's just a really good way to really be boots on the ground with your neighbor in a way that's so simple and helpful. And so you're saving them maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes, and then there's a good conversation. And then even if it's people that you don't know that pull up, you're just like, oh, hey, like, oh, yeah, I'm Tara. I live over here. And oh, you're over here. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, I know so and so, because it's like the 6 degrees of separation. Everybody knows, everybody's connected somehow. But that's one of my favorite things to do. And I know it sounds bizarre, but it's where the people are.
Yeah, no, I've talked a lot about the aerial method of getting started when you're trying to invite people to things. I want to be where the people are. And so like recognizing, oh, the dump is the watering hole. I'm sorry, what's the name? What's the nicer way
Well,
of saying it?
the transfer station.
The transfer station
Oh, wow.
is the hub. Saturday morning, people are bringing in their stuff. This is where I can get in front of people and maybe help them out and be nice and then talk them up a little bit.
And it's just about yeah, it's just about finding people. And the other thing,
I love dogs. So I'm all if you want to bring them over, get them on camera, I'm all for it.
so cute. Dewey, come here. Dewey, he's really, really cute. Well, I've got two dogs. There's one that's well behaved. Dewey, come here. Oh, here he comes. Come here.
Yeah.
Come here.
So for those of you who are listening to the audio stream, we're also broadcasting this on YouTube. If you look up Belongfulness, BELONGFULNESS on YouTube, you can see us on video, and hopefully you will see Dewey. Or did Dewey run away?
I mean, no, yeah, he's over there. He's a burning beetle. He's really cute. He's a puppy still. So, and one of the things that I think is really cool too about the hub is finding those unsuspecting neighbors that have a skill or a talent or something that maybe they don't or they feel like they don't necessarily belong, because it's usually the same group of people doing the same thing. And so I think it's really been cool to find neighbors who, because they're invited in, can now share these things, that these skills, these talents that they have. Like, so for example, there's a woman who lives up in Stark, and she's a homesteader, and I met her just randomly one day at a birthday party, and like we got to talking, and she was like, oh, I would love to at some point do some homesteading classes, but I don't have the like the means or the organizational skills or the bullhorn to basically pull it together. And so from that, we ended up having a couple of homestead classes that she taught, and those are ongoing. So like our first class was how to make butter, and we had like 30 people come and learn how to make butter, and it was a neighbor who stepped up to then teach her neighbors how to make butter. And that was so cool, because you're just sitting there and I'm watching these people who live a street apart from each other connect, and they're like, oh my gosh, I live there. Oh, I live there. And they're shaking their thing of cream and making butter. And it was just a simple thing that brought people together. And I think that that's cool. And there's more examples of that. So I think that's one thing. I think when people are out building communities, to try and find those people that have those skills, that could be, really cool, and bring them in.
It's amazing how much your capacity for doing cool stuff gets amplified the more people you involve and the more diverse the skill sets you draw upon. I know. So I have a background in co-working. I started Manhattan's first co-working space back in 2008. It was called New Work City, and it was a community hub and home to lots of meetup groups and crazy fun experiments and things like that. And I had no business doing it. I had no business experience, no money, no brick and mortar experience, but I knew that a lot of people wanted it. And I basically said, look, I'm going to lead the charge and do whatever needs to be done, but I don't know what I'm doing and I need a lot of help. And so somebody designed the logo, somebody built the website, somebody provisioned the IT infrastructure, and it was a real community effort. And I feel like I've seen that a lot in really great communities, that they involve a lot of people from different backgrounds. I visited a gentleman who was doing the grand opening of a co-working space that he was running in Longmont, Colorado, and it was basically like a local community fair. They had booths, they had tables, there were people they had their baked goods, people had food, people were brewing their own kombucha. I'm making some of this up, but the idea is like everybody had their stuff there, and you went to the co-working space to like check out the co-working space and learn about their new business, but you walked out knowing about a dozen different businesses, organizations, bakeries, whatever, throughout the town. And it was such a beautiful thing, and it made the event so much more rich. So
Yeah.
I just love the idea of, looking for those opportunities to engage people with different things to offer. And gosh, the homesteader teaching you how to churn butter. I mean, what a beautiful symbol, you know?
I mean, I never knew it was that easy. I mean, do you know how to make butter?
I'm sorry?
It's I said, do you know how to make butter?
No, I do not.
It's literally so you just take some heavy cream, put it in a mason jar, and then shake it. And it literally will start to form like a ball of butter, and then everything that's left over is your buttermilk. So you hear about like buttermilk pancakes,
Yeah.
like there's buttermilk and there's I don't know, it was wild. Add a little bit of salt, but it's just these simple little things. And I think I would love to talk to you more at some point about your co-working space, because that could be a whole nother
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I think sometimes people tend to overcomplicate community work, and
Mhm.
they think, we need all kinds of money and we need this and this and this. And, you just don't. You
It's so
don't.
true. I mean, it's amazing. So if you were, I assume you've got something else coming up that you're getting ready to promote. What are your first moves, or what are your best moves if you want to get somebody to show up to something new that you have on the calendar?
I mean, I think it's just that personal invite. You know what I mean? Whether it's a phone call or seeing somebody in person, um, it's one thing to, put things on, on Facebook or social media or whatnot. But I just think that that personal invite, like, hey, this is happening. Are you coming? Um, I just think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I found that in the course of the co-working experience running that space, that I had the most success when I was the most personal and direct, inviting people. And whenever I fell back on blasting stuff out, sending out a newsletter, sending out a tweet, whatever it was, that
Yeah.
the participation, it was a lot harder to get people to show up if I wasn't inviting them person to person.
Yeah, and I think and it's also finding
Get
these
them,
make
get them,
ones.
get them.
I think like finding the people that have that, like that the social capital in different like groups is so important too. Like, anyways,
There's a meme online of a dog, like a sad dog, and it's the caption is, "I barked all day to protect my humans, and nobody even thanked me."
yeah, no, I've seen that. Oh my gosh. Did you ever see, I know we'll get off topic, but there was the one guy, he was in like some business meeting and he had like a cat filter on his
Oh yeah,
face.
yeah,
Like he was talking to like a judge or something.
yeah. It was a legal proceeding. He was a lawyer.
Yes, that's what it was. If I'm like ever sad, I'll just pull up that video and I'm like cry laughing. It's so funny. But but yeah, I think it's just about finding, and like also putting yourself in different groups that you wouldn't, like, kind of going back to what we talked about
Mm,
before, putting yourself in different settings that you wouldn't normally go to. Do you know what I mean? So um I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know, just whether if you want to go and have like beers at the VFW, or just the most random settings that you can think of. Not that the VFW is random, but just I don't know. Think of a place that you wouldn't typically go and go there,
yeah,
and that's how you're gonna spread your your net, I guess, and your network, as far as
yeah,
kind of bringing people in and reaching more people
yeah,
where they're
yeah. Absolutely, and saying yes to invitations when other people, you know, talk about stuff that they're up to as well. I'm sure.
That's a good point, yeah. Supporting other people, so it's not just about what you're doing, it's about what other people are doing and showing up for them.
Oh gosh, especially new stuff. Like I'm organizing a board game night here in Norwalk next week, and it's the first time I've ever hosted an event like this. And my wife and I moved here 2 years ago. We still consider ourselves quite new. And so every single person that RSVPs makes my day. It's like when
Yeah.
you're doing something new, it makes a difference.
Don't you feel like when you have an event, like, I don't know, you're like 8 and it's your birthday party and people are showing up for your birthday party and you're like, "Dee." You get so excited. Yeah.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I feel
Well, and I don't know if you get this, but every time I run an event, and I've been doing this for 18 years, there's that moment before it starts when you're like, no one's going to show up.
yep, every time.
It's just going to be me.
Yep, every
Everyone's going to bail.
yep,
And then
every
people
time.
start to trickle in, and then it's like, oh, okay. All right. It's happening.
Yeah. It's just I feel so lucky to be able to do this. Like, I just feel so happy about it. It's just like I just love people so much. And I think that that's I don't know, that's where I mean, maybe I don't know, you know how, like, you go some people are like, "Oh, I can't stand people," or you see, like, the memes too that are just like, people." I'm just so the opposite. I think people are fascinating.
We need more of that. We need more of that attitude in the world for sure. I imagine that I keep coming back to the handing out flyers at the grocery store because it's just such a wonderful image. I
Mhm.
imagine that you are served well by seeing the humanity in people and, just recognizing them for who they are. Have you had any interactions that were a little unexpected? Maybe you encountered someone who seemed a little gruff and then they warmed up after you talked to them or anything like that?
Oh, 1000%. So, right, even at the grocery store, I met a woman who was, new to the area, and she kinda keeps to herself, whatnot, and I would imagine that if anybody else kinda ran into that, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, thank you." But not me. I was like, "Oh," and, like, kept asking her more questions, about it, and then next thing you know, we just started conversing and laughing and just, you're just having a great conversation in front of the eggplants, and, it was really nice, and she ended up taking the flyer, and I thought it was just so cool. It's just like I think when we go into conversations a lot, we can be defensive, just automatically, just like especially if you don't know somebody, it's a complete stranger, you're automatically just defensive.
I
I don't
spent
know.
most of my adult life in New York. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Well, originally, I was from New Jersey. I moved up here when I was 12, so I've got that, anyway, but I think when we go into situations and we are not feeling like we have to defend anything, or I don't know if I'm explaining it, but if you just go into it just calmly and really open, um, it can make a huge difference.
I
So
th I think that's where that authenticity comes into, where we always have our guard up with any interaction with somebody we don't know because we assume they're gonna try to sell us something at least, right? Or they're crazy or whatever it is, but we there is that bit of guard up, and this is cultural, right? I'm sure there's parts of the world or towns in the world where people, are a lot more trusting and open, but for a lot of us, when somebody we don't know walks up to us, we're going to, have our barriers up first. And if you have even the slightest bit of inauthentic energy to you, people pick up on that stuff instantaneously, and then the barriers go up even higher,
right,
But
totally.
if you're coming with that genuine energy of like, hey, I'm just throwing a potluck party because it's the middle of winter and I saw some old guy
Right.
on TikTok and it looked like fun. It's easier to talk to people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
One of the
and I think no, go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the things that I teach to other community leaders is something I learned, the hard way running a co-working space was that as a co-working space owner, once I opened my doors, my perception changed a lot in terms of my relationships with other people. Where if I went to a networking event or a social event and I said, "Hey, I'm Tony. I run this, co-working space called New York City," in the back of their head, immediately they're like, "Oh, this guy's trying to sell me something. He's
Yeah.
trying, because I am trying to fill my space." Which is constantly needing more people to pay for access to it in order for me to pay the landlord. And so there's that immediate barrier of like, oh, he's going to try to sell me space. And so if I try to sell them space, I'm playing into the narrative of I'm just here to sell you something. And what I've learned is that I'm much better off giving them something to say, like, hey, we do Taco Tuesday. We go to our favorite local taco place on Tuesdays at 12:30. If you want to come by, I'd love to have you. I'll buy your first round of tacos. And so now I'm not selling you anything. I'm giving you tacos and a chance to make friends,
I
And so
mean,
it's like, if you hang out with us and you love the space that we have and you really have an awesome conversation with the people you're hanging out with, maybe you want to stick around and co-work with us,
and it
But
also
like,
goes.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
great. Yeah, I think that's great. I think, yeah, yeah, I don't know.
Helps not to be selling to people.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I just think, and sometimes I don't know how people take me when I just bop up and I'm like, "Hey," they're like, you know what I mean? But, yeah, but most of the time, I mean, most people just laugh at me and take, just, or with me, I don't know, but most people are kind. I haven't really I haven't really had a problem, um, knock on wood, with anybody. Um, yeah.
I so badly want to hand out flyers at a grocery store now for board game night just to see what
You should
happens.
you should do it. I'm
Yeah,
telling you, it's like it's, yeah, I mean, well, there's a reason why Doug went viral,
yeah.
you know? Um, and so I don't know if there's anything else, that you wanted to touch on, but, one thing I think is really important is the mutual aid.
Mm,
So I
tell me
don't know.
more.
So I have a friend, Megan, who is a town over in Littleton, and she started Littleton Area Mutual Aid, and same thing, she didn't overcomplicate the process, and it's just neighbors helping neighbors, so neighbors will donate food. Dewey,
Get him. Get him,
unnecessary.
Dewey. Get him. Tear him apart.
I know, jeez. So neighbors will just donate food every week. There's like a list of the things that we need, and then every Sunday we have a community meal, and people can come in and shop at the free store. We call it the free store, for free, and it's it serves like 30 to 40 families every week. But it's so nice because we've just become our own community now, where we're just like having this meal together on Sundays. It's not an us versus them situation. So I think a lot of times, where it's like a food pantry or whatever, it's kind of like a little bit too servicey. Like it's just not about, it's not mutual. It doesn't feel mutual.
Yeah.
And this model is of mutual aid is just like, we're all in this together. We are all gonna like eat together. Like, nobody's better than anybody else here. And so many amazing friendships have come out of that. And again, it's people that you wouldn't normally like connect with. And it's um it's just a really cool thing. And so I think that that's another thing that I'm hoping to see more and more of, is just that mutual aid. So where you don't have to wait for funding, you don't have to wait for permission, you don't have to wait for anything. You just say, hey, there's a need. Let's help each other, fill these gaps. And it took nothing. It took nothing. And, even the space that we now use is donated space from a local church who's asked nothing of us other than, yep, here we go. Nobody's using the space. Have at it. $0.
I was just wondering where, and the first thought in my head was a local church. like
Yep.
the assembly area or whatever it is in the church. It's such a natural location. It's what it's meant for. Just needs some people to step up and take some leadership. So, okay, so we've got just like like 2 minutes, and I want to, wrap up with a couple of questions. But before that, give me the like lightning round. How would I start a mutual aid group here in Norwalk?
Well, again, find what the need is. Probably you would meet them at your board game night. You can talk about it there if anybody's interested. Um, and I think one of the things that Megan did was there was a big flood, and she reached out to a lot of our unhoused neighbors before she established this, and she would collect food and items and tents and things for them and trek it out into the woods and build a relationship with them that way to build trust. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. And so, yeah, it's just, I would gather some people at your board game night and talk to them about it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times a good community arises from a prompt, from some kind of a mandate that there's something that's needed and nobody's solving it. So we got to start doing something and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, totally.
Tara, this has been so fun. I would love to know, super random, what's one book that you recommend that you've just been loving? Nonfiction or fiction, something that's been inspiring to you or educational to you lately?
Well, so I just read this book. A friend of mine just went to Puerto Rico. She took a salsa class, and it's called The Zen of Dancing in the Rain. I just finished it. And it is about a combat veteran who just her life story is just crazy, and it just shows human resilience. And I get bored very easily, and this one was a page turner. I mean, I couldn't put it down.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was
Love
a good
it.
book.
Love it. That's great, Tara. I'm going to look it up. I'm always looking for, good reads like that to get me feeling good about the world and life in general. Tara, it's such a pleasure. How do we find out more about you and about the Community Builders Hub? Where do we go?
You can find us on Facebook, the Community Builders Hub, Littleton, Lancaster, Groveton Regional. So we've got like a regional pages. Just Google the Community Builders Hub, New Hampshire. I'm on Facebook, Tara Barton Giles. Yeah, I'm not hard to find. I'm not hard to find.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. It's been lovely to get to know you. I'm going to wrap up this program, and then I will follow up with you over email.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Tony.
That's an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Tara.
So great.
All right. So that takes us to, there we go. All right. We are 30 seconds away from the turn of the hour. Jeff, our producer, is here, and we're going to switch things over in just a moment. My name's Tony Boccigalupo, Tony BGOODE on the socials. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I'm looking forward to more of these soon. We'll be back next Wednesday at 5 p.m. in our new usual time slot. And thanks so much for joining us. Be well.